Hello, welcome to Thailand Wild. This is Daryl Sweetland, or Daz, with a new clip from Gengrajan National Park in Phetchaburi Province. If you enjoy the clip, please consider subscribing and pressing the bell icon to get notifications of future clips. I'm always adding new material as and when I can get out. As always here at this hide, Birdmore's ground squirrel. Plenty of food for them to eat, strewn on the ground. As I've mentioned before, this is not an entirely natural situation. The owners of these hides, there are several of them in this area, provide water and food in a corner of the forest. And this has been going on for many years, so the wildlife around this area has grown accustomed to it and become accustomed to having hides close by as well, which means that photographers, filmmakers can sit and quite easily see a range of wildlife here. Now, I'm not sure what's going on here. Initially, I assumed it was an alarm call, but it's clearly not. It's sitting out in the open, this ground squirrel. I think perhaps there's a competitor in the area. Clearly, there are two animals calling, but it hasn't put off the mouse deer or any of the other wildlife. So I don't think this is an alarm call indicating a bird of prey or a snake or anything. Again, one of the animals here that is so easy to see, normally very shy. It's beautiful lesser mouse deer. In the last clip that I posted, I only had males of this species, but it seems today I've only seen females. The male has a pair of canines, elongated, that protrude from the upper jaw, but I couldn't see that on any of the individuals that came in here today, so I'm assuming they were either all females or perhaps they're juveniles and those teeth have not yet grown long enough to protrude from the mouth. I'm not sure. And this is just ridiculous. Hilarious. Able to eat and complain at the same time. A rare skill. Now, I'm loath to mention it, but I think I have to, in case you have already noticed. But if you hadn't, I'm afraid once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. Just look at the size of those mosquitoes buzzing around the front legs of this mouse deer. I know these mouse deer are tiny, but those mosquitoes nonetheless are huge. Fortunately, I didn't get them coming into the hide after me. Another individual here, also appears to be female. And the sound in the background there that we just heard, I believe, is an oriental pied hornbill. I haven't heard that here before, but it's no surprise. Plenty of them in the forest around here. Before I started coming to these hides here near Gengrajan, I'd never seen a mouse deer before. My home is in the north of Thailand, and we don't get any in that area. But I've seen a great many now in the last couple of months from coming here. Quite wonderful. I have an area of land in Kanchanaburi province on the west side of Thailand, and we've been planting trees there, trying to recreate a forest, and it is now my dream to attract mouse deer into that land. Again, the Birdmoor's ground squirrel coming in for a drink here. Seems to have got over whatever it was vocalizing about earlier on. As I've mentioned previously in other clips, these mouse deer really are very tiny, shorter than the height of a ruler. Another common feature here at Nung Hide is a flock of greater necklaced laughing thrush, regularly visiting the hide and the water area throughout the day, often in the company of the closely related lesser necklaced laughing thrush. All of these here that we can see are greater. They have the black moustache under the level of the beak, and then the black line below the white eyebrow to enclose a white cheek patch with little black striations in, whereas the lesser does not have that lower black line. Always some common emerald doves as well visit the hide. And once again, the oriental pied hornbill making their presence known. I've seen several species of bulbul here. Generally, they visit for the water rather than for the food that has been put down. Interesting watching the laughing thrush here. Grooming seems to be a big part of their life. Not surprising for a species that stays together as a group. I'm assuming that perhaps some of these are juvenile birds. Occasionally we can see the advantage of being part of a group. Plenty of eyes looking around, looking up at the skies. I've noticed some of the animals this morning have been a bit on edge. I'm wondering if there's a bird of prey around. I've seen goshawk here previously. Another of the common bulbul species that we always see here, streak-eared. This is a bird that will frequently nest in gardens, and indeed its Thai name you could probably translate as garden bulbul. Here we see a lesser necklace laughing thrush briefly in front of the red jungle fowl there. As you can see, it lacks the black moustache below the level of the beak. Two of them in fact there. And here, another species, absolutely gorgeous. Love these birds. White-crested laughing thrush. There is always food available at this top area in front of the hides here, and this will nearly always attract large numbers of laughing thrush and grey-bellied squirrels, as you can see, feasting away there. These grey-bellied squirrels are much larger than the ground squirrels that we find here. And in fact, I even saw on several occasions a squirrel taking on a mouse deer and kind of bullying it off of the food. And now one of the fabulous species that people come to these hides to try to see. Ferruginous partridge, beautiful, quite a rare bird, so this is a wonderful thing to be able to come here to see them. You can hear probably and see from the movement of the leaves, the wind gets up every now and then. It seems to be a thing when you're in the forest. It's quite delightful. I'm not sure, perhaps you're just more sensitive to it when you're tuned into nature, but you get these short bursts of air coming through that last perhaps a few seconds or a minute or so. I guess it's just hot air moving around as the day warms up. But I'm guessing that it's an opportunity for predators to make a move. There are branches and leaves falling down. There are already noises coming from that. The animals on the ground might perhaps be a little bit disorientated by the wind. And so I've noticed that they seem to be a lot more cautious, typically, when there is a breeze blowing like this. Now, I've seen these partridge on each occasion that I've been here. The first time was a lifer species for me, so that was absolutely delightful. But today it's also wonderful because they are staying around for a long time, so I'm able to get some nice footage of them. Wouldn't it just be an astonishing sight if they came in here one day with some chicks in a line behind them? I've seen that with other very small species of ground bird, button quails. And it's just such a comical sight. The babies are little more than the size of ping pong balls. Again, the northern tree shrew, and then behind, oh, hopping onto the branch again there, the Himalayan ground squirrel. Plenty of them here. You'll notice that the bulbul here in the foreground, front right, is different from the others. The others are, as we've seen previously, streak-eared bulbul. But this is a stripe-throated bulbul. Beautiful yellow around the beak and the face there. And then the big one. One of the birds that people come to this hide to be able to see. Grey peacock pheasant. This is the male. The female did not show throughout the whole day. I saw both of them back in January. So the question now is she sitting on eggs somewhere nearby? The first visit was just brief. But I strongly suspect that many of these birds, the peacock pheasant and the partridges, are quite often just in the woodland, just outside this clearing. Just waiting and listening. And if they're satisfied that the area is safe, they just walk on in and start feeding. Again, Himalayan ground squirrel. Always plenty of these here. Diminutive compared to the grey-bellied squirrels. And he's back. I was fortunate enough to see him displaying to the female when I was here back in January. Unfortunately, my camera had a fault at that time, so the film is not as good as it should have been, which is really disappointing. But we have a date for next January. I will be back. I love the facial expression, if that's even a thing in birds, on this peacock pheasant. It appears to have an almost perpetually surprised kind of look. Once again, the white-crested laughing thrush are back. I love these birds. There we clearly see the white patch between the two black lines there behind the eye, the little black striations in it, a clear indication that this is a greater necklaced laughing thrush. Red jungle fowl often visit the hide throughout the day. We heard a little wispy call there, which I believe was from the laughing thrush. The jungle fowl immediately started to appear a little more nervous. And then once the squirrel started alarming as well, most birds were off, but I couldn't help continue filming. Inevitably, when I hear alarm calls like that, I'm getting ready to film, and I'm going to throw the lens open wider just in case. And so I'm quite surprised to see that what has actually happened is that this one individual laughing thrush has just stayed on, completely ignoring the alarm calls of the other animals, and also these spotted doves that I previously have seen to be very nervous and on edge, but they've decided to take no notice whatsoever of the alarming of the other animals around. Of course, the squirrels will make alarm calls quite frequently, and it would seem that many of the other species here have learned to disregard those alarm calls on the majority of occasions. And then the second species of partridge for today. Fantastic. Bar-backed partridge here. Little crouch down onto the ground. I've seen them do that before. Presumably they saw a bird or a shadow pass over the sky, just enough to give them a bit of a fright. I'm guessing that the defensive technique is to crouch low on the ground and stay still in the event of a bird of prey flying over. The northern tree shrew throwing its weight around. And while I was filming that, I didn't even notice that these bar-backed partridge have come down the slope and ended up right in front of me. And how is that for a sight? I must say that occasionally this feels a bit more like a petting zoo than a wild corner of forest, but it is indeed in the wild. But as I said before, food and water are provided daily, and the wildlife in this area has become accustomed to that. It was great to get such a close-up view of these birds today. Just look at the gorgeous colours and patterns on this partridge. I've seen up to 7 or 8 mouse deer at a single time in this clearing on one occasion. This one is a different individual to what we've seen so far. The ears look ragged. I wonder what has happened to this animal. Once again, I'm not seeing any of the elongated canines from the upper jaw, so I'm assuming this is a female, or as I mentioned before, perhaps a juvenile. I haven't been able to find information on the details of those canine teeth and if they emerge at a certain age during adolescence. If anyone has details or information on that in English or in Thai, please leave a comment below. Once again, the striped-throated bulbul. And what I didn't realise, down in that bottom left-hand corner, oh my goodness, one of the birds I've been waiting all day for, and then they do come in and take a bath. White-browed scimitar babbler. What a sight. This is where, as a camera operator, you are just totally on edge because you know you're only going to get a few seconds with these birds and you don't want to blow it. And that was that. Into the water just a couple of times each and then away. But the white-crested laughing thrush are back, and they too are a truly gorgeous species of bird. Always something to see here. This video is 50 minutes long. It's a compression basically of a single day sitting here from around about 8 in the morning until 6 p.m. at night. And with so much to see, that time just flies by. To be honest, I could sit here for months. There are often periods of time in the afternoon where a lot of the smaller birds come in to take a bath and a drink. And I'm assuming that this is related to the behavior of the other birds. There's a brown-cheeked fulveta a moment ago, small one. And something dropping in too quick for me to see. The ferruginous partridge pair are back. I'm assuming it's the same pair that I see each time. Lovely little interaction there with the ground squirrel. Again, the wind getting up for a few moments. I've also learnt to make sure that I'm on high alert when that happens. Just never know, one of these days a predator might pop into this clearing. It has happened with other people, I know. Birds of prey have been seen here. Snakes as well frequently are seen here. Rat snakes and even king cobras. I've not been fortunate enough to experience that yet, but I will continue to live in hope. One of my friends even saw a mouse deer caught and eaten by a python in front of one of these hides at Gangrajan. I'm not sure which one. What an incredible and terrible sight that must have been. As I mentioned earlier, many of these birds will just be standing, waiting inside the forest edge. Presumably listening out for any signs of danger, and if they're satisfied, then they will come back in and start feeding again. Here again, the grey-bellied squirrel just has a go at the mouse deer there. It's just out of shot. What a shame. But clearly it chased the deer away there. The mouse deer, I should say. Of course, they're not deer at all. And rushing back into its partner, the other ferruginous partridge. Lovely bird sound going on there in the background. If anyone knows what that was, please leave a comment for me with a time. Here it comes again. At times the image is not as sharp as it should be. I apologize for that. I'm really struggling now with the equipment I have. Over the years, during the rainy season, my lenses have occasionally got fungus growing in them. People that are not familiar with the tropics might be surprised to hear that, but it is a thing here. And on the last occasion, it seems to have damaged the actual surface of the glass itself. So I'm really struggling with the equipment I have. One of these days, when I write that bestseller, I'll be able to get some new gear. Remember the mouse deer earlier on with the ragged ears? This one is lovely, clean, and nicely shaped ears. Clearly a different individual. Wonderful to see that delicate drinking technique there. nose into the water, using its tongue to lap up this fresh water here. How valuable is that for the animals in this area? Just a brief view today of a black-naped monarch. White-rumped Shama, common sight here. Actually, I said earlier that this is a summary of everything I saw during a single day here. That's not quite true. I also filmed a pair of green magpies coming in and taking a bath, and I've edited that as a separate clip, which you can see on the channel. Absolutely fabulous. I just couldn't resist having that as a clip of its own. One of the most beautiful birds that you will see in the forests here in Thailand. A lot of noise going on in the background. The red jungle fowl, when they start kicking up the leaves and the soil, searching for food. They make quite a bit of noise as well. Two species of laughing thrush here, the lesser necklaced and the white-crested. And now a greater necklaced laughing thrush. We've got all three species there in one shot. And while all that was going on, I hadn't realized that this green-legged or scaly-breasted partridge is coming. And look at that. The alarm call of some of the other birds. On edge. This has got to be very difficult to see for any predator flying over when it crouches still like that onto the ground. Very, very interesting to see. Puff-throated babblers are regular visitors into the water pool, especially late in the afternoon. They like to come in and take a bath. Often several of them will come to queue up and take a bath at the same time. And then I was searching all day looking at the vegetation on the side of the hide, and I'm rewarded at last. A large scimitar babbler. There is actually a pair here. The other one is just to the right, out of shot in amongst the vegetation. These birds are super skulkers. They're around but quite difficult to see. But at least I managed to get this little bit of film of one of the pair. And back to the partridge, the third species now for today. Absolutely wonderful. These are green-legged partridge, also known as scaly-breasted partridge. I prefer to use green-legged. The binomial name is Chloropus, which is green-legged or green-footed. So I'll stick with that. The same technique we see with all of these partridges, also with the jungle fowl, the scratching of the ground in their search for food. A blue flycatcher there of some species at the front of the water pool. Didn't get a focus on it to see what it was. And back again. Here a female of one of the blue flycatcher species. This might be Hainan. I haven't put a label on the video because I'm not 100% sure of that. Again, if anyone has observations on that, please leave a comment. We see a little bit of the orange on the breast there. A little bit of a lighter color around the eye, seemingly. More puff-throated babblers. As I say, this is a bird that typically turns up right at the end of the afternoon as the light is starting to fade. And I couldn't resist one last look at the stunning white-crested laughing thrush.